Hear me in the World Vibes Radio. Why they my use ya? Not take no target. Be careful of some places where you walk. Some no know God, them no read Bible. Then we shoot you down with them rifle. Do not bring no guns, come to town. Yes. World Vibes tell them leave that at home. Them better bring love, come to town. Yes. I say spread the joy around. World Vibes Radio. Not the king this, you know. Let's go and teach your youth them. Play some good music. Educate them.
Yo, check this out. This is Anthony Cruz, and you don't know it's the Diaspora Connection featuring Kabbalah for Jamaicans with Joshua. Keep it locked, man. Blaze it hot. Anthony Cruz.
Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll climb any mountain, swim the deepest sea, searching for my love that was prepared for me. How is it taking so long? Ooh, be so long gone. Why can't I be the man I wanna be when Jah has ordained that I should be free? When we not lose, it's the Father's road I choose. Though friends may let me down, Jah will let me wear His crown. Yeah, we not lose. It's the Father's road I choose. Though friends may let me down, Jah will let me wear His crown.
Pull it up, selector. I Lego this year one, yeah.
To teach you about roots and culture. I tell them how to feel remember Jah. That's all I am doing with I am. Well, they say I have a messenger to teach you about roots and culture. I tell them how to them remember Jah. That's all I am doing with I am. Some man I sing about how them boss love both, them forget Jah and put them woman up front. There's a time and a place for everything. Whoa, see them a talk about how them fire them gun, and I talk about how them boss Gatling. But I don't have no time to mingle and sing, cause I said I have a messenger to teach you about roots and culture, and tell them as if you remember Jah. That's all I am doing with I am. Be of good courage. Oh, oh yeah. And hold on to love. I know you have been wondering if I love you till the end of time. Oh yeah. And though you have been wondering, let me reaffirm in your mind. Oh woman, I promised you I'd never break your heart, and now I will be true as from the start. Only treat me right and be upright. I love you for the rest of my life.
survive. Men find it difficult because they ignorance and art. Simplicity, we used to survive. Do what you doing properly, that's the way through life. Simplicity, we used to survive. Men find it difficult because they ignorance and art. Simplicity, we used to survive. Children, open up your eyes. It's not the one bag of vanity narding, animosity narding, hypocrisy nor democracy. It's nothing, laba laba narding, backstabber nor vampire evil desire. It's just a meditation of my heart, pure and conscious thought. Be overstanding and be smart. Listen to the children speak the word and shine the light in the dark, yeah. Simplicity, we used to survive. Men who find it difficult because they ignorant and die. Simplicity, me used to survive. Do what you doing properly, that's the way through life. Simplicity, I used to survive. Children, open up your eyes. Simplicity, me used to survive. Burn Pharisees and scribes. Yeah. Hey, avoid your anger, that report. Praise Rastafari and live a worthy cause. Give us all the blessing, give us all reward to help the poor and find it easy when them find it hard. Simplicity, I used to survive. Men don't find it difficult because they ignorant and die. Simplicity, I used to survive. I shall live a lovely life.
I Lego this year one, yeah.
Just organize and centralize my people because Babylon now instill malicious and grudge upon my people now. You see the dirty lifestyle? There's nothing in them system of which they create all around. They criticize their own hydrant, yeah, they would catch at a straw if they were to drown. They're not different from those scribes and Pharisees who come around. Dialogues in the corners, skylarks on the streets, flirts in the towns. They never do positive. They find a joy making people business around. Dance a yard before you dance abroad. The high priest tell you that I knew they're from. God go get good ways, true grace. Of the perch we pass a young gate. Young good ways, it give you long days. Now take no bribe from not a screw face. Go get good ways, good grace. Perch we pass a young gate. You have some good ways, it give you long days. What do you say? I tell you now, they await your downfall. Figure lava and talk. Yo, what is that? Greater joy, you come miss on you a figure. Have a lucky job, won't fill off. When Babylon City, I got down propaganda where them spread becomes a dagger to them heart. Hey, think say them have a secret. The baby reveal it, so them a walk witchcraft out. So them better, so them a close in. Contempt the youth, them where they pass. Everyone is equal, Rastafari say. Try not on the ungodly part. God and go get a good ways. Long days, birds be pass a young gate. What about your good ways? It give you length of days. Yo, now you taste how you made this taste. Forward, pull up that.
Record it.
I told you, Jah gon' bless us and make us strong. I trust that we'll be there someday to come. I never doubted, I keep the faith all along. A good friend, I'm a servant, that's who I am. You surely deserve all the best there is. And I've got all the love to give. You want all the care there is. And we all got all the life to live. This is for you, my dear. Girl, my loving to show I care. I need your birthday, like the first day. This is the time when my words say I love you. Oh yeah. For the record, your presence was on my preference. Lord, you make you glorious in front of all your friends. You surely deserve all the love there is. And I've got all that love to give. You deserve all the care and share there is. And we all got all our life to live. Ha! This is for you, my dear. Ha! Show you how much I care. This is for you, my dear. Show you how much I care. I always need you in my arms. I'm not like the system who wanna squeeze you out. Nothing I do won't leave you out. Yeah, you know. Oh, we both cannot cheat. Nothing is too hard to overcome. Now that you perceive it, like the shining sun. This is for you, my dear.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Diaspora Connection featuring Kabbalah for Jamaicans. My name is Joshua. I am listening to Caesar Kalonji on the I Swear Rhythm. Yes, good evening, everyone. And I want to thank you for being here. For those of you who are listening for the first time, welcome. What we do here is we share the ancient Israelite wisdom known as Kabbalah. This is what Moses received on Mount Sinai and was further revealed by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the 2nd century, and further revealed by great sages such as Rav Ashlag and the Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, and Rav Berg and the Kabbalah Center. I have been a student of the Kabbalah Center now for the last 16 years. And I tell you, it's magical, friends. It really is. Because what it can do for you, you can't do for yourself. Because the wisdom is based upon the Old Testament. And the vehicle that is used is the Hebrew letters. Not only is the wisdom, which is the thought behind the transport of the letters, but the letters themselves, the Hebrew letters themselves, my friends, is where the magic resides. And this is one of the reasons why those who speak Hebrew, those who have Hebrew as their natural language, are very powerful people. And the Creator knew that there would be people who would not have this as their natural language. So, how could they benefit from it? Well, as I have shared with many of you in the past, just by making eye contact with the letters, with the Hebrew letters, because the Hebrew letters are uniquely designed to transmit light force energy. So with that capability, the wisdom or the knowledge or the information that is conveyed using those letters, because the Torah is written in Hebrew using the Hebrew letters, the 22 Hebrew letters which are considered the DNA of creation. So, and to become familiar with the Hebrew letters. Thank God for the internet today. Anything you want to find out, anything you want to learn, you can go to the internet and you can find it. So we're going to be hearing, and very shortly, because last night, an hour and a half into the program, is when we started to play some Zohar. Now, the Zohar is the principal text of Kabbalah. The Zohar is written in the language of Aramaic. Aramaic uses the same 22 Hebrew letters, but it is more powerful than Hebrew in the sense that it is a direct connection to the upper worlds. It is a direct connection to the creator, the creative force itself, to the energy force itself. Because the Zohar teaches us that when the creator first spoke to Abraham, he spoke to him in Aramaic. Why? Because he did not want the angels, especially the negative ones, to accuse him of speaking to an uncircumcised man in the holy tongue. So he used a derivative of Hebrew, which is Aramaic. And we are also taught the entire Zohar, okay, is written in Aramaic, because the Creator wanted to give us more of a direct connection to the energy force, to Him, to the creative force. So when you hear the words of Aramaic in the Zohar, understand that it is bypassing your mind and going directly into your soul, because your soul understands it. Why? Because the Zohar tells us that before anything was created, including the very first soul, the Creator created the 22 Hebrew letters. And for 2,000 years, He played with them, He toyed with them, He mused Himself with them. This is the language of the Zohar. For 2,000 years, mused Himself with the letters, until each letter, in reverse order, Aleph being the very first letter, and Tav being the last letter, the 22nd letter, each letter in reverse order came to the Creator and said, Creator, use me to create the universe. And for those of you who were listening to the Zohar reading last night, that is what we read. And if you'd like to see what the Zohar looks like, you can see it online. It's zohar.com. zohar.com. Okay? Our number here in the studio is country code +1 516 965 5700. Again, country code +1 516 965 5700. Send a text. Let us know that you're listening. And you can ask your questions. For those of you who know how to connect to the Zoom link, I will be opening up the Zoom link shortly so that you can interact with the program. And again, my name is Joshua. And we're going to be discussing a lot. I hope you enjoyed the musical selection. You know, normally I usually play for at least 20 minutes to a half hour. But tonight I have so much to discuss with you that I wanted to get right into it. We're going to be playing 2 lectures from teachers from the Kabbalah Center, one from Michael Berg and one from Karen Berg, his mother, about the upcoming Torah portion known as Re'eh. Okay? And again, for those of you who have been listening, you've heard me recommend that if you want to see changes, immediate changes in your life, start listening to the Torah reading on Saturday and listen to as much Zohar as possible. All you have to do is start listening, friends. Just start listening. Because by listening, you're going to learn. And Kabbalah is not a religion. It is a science. It is spiritual science. It is the highest knowledge known to man regarding the spiritual system. Those who have an ear to hear, let them hear. Friends, unless you are a current student of Kabbalah, what you hear on this program, you will hear nowhere else. I guarantee you that. And that is why we wanted to have this program, to expose Jamaicans to this wisdom. Because this is the wisdom, the practical wisdom that transforms you. It has the capability, it has the power to transform you. Mankind cannot transform himself. He can try. But as the scriptures tell us, our mind is controlled by the dark force, by the evil inclination, the Satan. And for those of you who don't think that the Satan exists, friends, there is a movie. It's called The Usual Suspects with Kevin Spacey, Chaz Palminteri. And there is a famous quote in there that they took from the Kabbalist. And it says, the greatest trick the devil ever played on humanity was to make them believe that he did not exist. Okay? Let me repeat that. The greatest trick the Satan, the adversary, the devil, ever played on humanity was to make them believe that he did not exist. Why is that significant? Because if you don't know who the enemy is or what the enemy is, then you can't even begin to fight. You can't even begin to fight. And if you don't know who your enemy is, you've lost the war already. You've lost. So, one of the things that we do here, that the teachings of Kabbalah, the wisdom of Kabbalah does for us, is it exposes how the evil inclination works. And to be able to identify it. You know, the Buddhists have a method. It's called it's a part of mindfulness, in that when you identify a trait, especially a negative one, that's when it goes away. When you identify, when you can name, okay, a part of your character that is negative, that you want to transform, you first have to identify it. You first have to identify it. Because you cannot change that which you are unaware of. And the moment you identify it, it begins to go away. The moment you begin to set eyes upon it, it's like a child or someone who is doing something wrong, and unless you approach them, unless you put eyes on them and let them know that you see what they're doing, they're going to keep doing it. So it is with the ego and the evil inclination. The moment you recognize it and you start to focus, to look at it, that's when then and only then will it go away. So that's what mindfulness is all about. And one of the methodologies of meditation, okay, is to sit quietly and be an observer. Be an observer of your own thoughts, because really and truly that's the only thing you can truly observe with any kind of I want to use the word success, right? You have to be able to recognize, to be able to see. And it's very interesting that this upcoming Torah portion is called Re'eh, which means to see. Alright? And just to show you how significant this portion is, right? There is no Zohar portion for this Torah portion. because it is so concealed. And let me explain a little bit more the function of the Zohar, what the Zohar does for us. The Zohar is based upon the 5 books of Moses. It is conversations between rabbis, several rabbis, the main one being Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was a contemporary of Yeshua of Nazareth and a student of the great Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students, 12,000 pairs of students, because that's how they studied together. They studied in pairs. And the Romans sought out all of the students of Rabbi Akiva, all of the Kabbalists, to kill them. In fact, the 24,000 students, 24,000 Kabbalists died, minus 5. And those 5 hid, right, including Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son, Rabbi Elazar. They hid in a cave for 12 years. And it was at the end of those 12 years that the Creator revealed the Zohar to Rabbi Shimon. Alright? So, the Zohar again is a compilation of conversations between rabbis to further expound upon the secrets of the Torah. And the Torah is the 5 books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. I personally consider the Torah to be more than just the 5 books, because the Zohar tells us that when the Creator looked inside, when he wanted to create creation, he looked inside of the Torah. And in the Zohar itself, you'll see references from books other than the 5 books of Moses. You'll see references to the Psalms, you'll see references to Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, Malachi, Isaiah, Jeremiah, right? If not, I think every book after Deuteronomy, I think, is mentioned in the Zohar. The translated Zohar set in English is 22 volumes. And as I said before, you can see it online for free. The Kabbalah Center has done an amazing job in making a lot of resources available for free. And I recommend that you take advantage of it. So, again, the Zohar is magical in that, because it comes from a high realm in the tree of life, the realm known as Bina, the world to come. And if you'd like to look or understand what the tree of life looks like, for those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube, it is the the graphical figure that is inside of the Star of David. Right? It is our logo. It's a part of our logo, in between the 2 Jamaican flags. The 10 Sphirot, that is the tree of life. And each one of those circles, those red dots, represents an energy level. 1 through 10. The top one being Keter, the bottom one being Malhut, the realm of physicality. And the more you listen, is the more you'll pick up on things, because I'll be repeating myself a lot, because we're getting a lot of new users, new listeners, and forgive me if you heard me say things before, but repetition is a good thing, because again, our mind will cause us to forget. Alright? So I'll be repeating myself a lot. So when you hear the Zohar, if you hear a voice that says, "But wait, I don't understand this," ignore it. In other words, in fact, quiet that voice if it comes, and tell it to just listen. Because it is through the vibration, the vibratory power of the letters, the sound hitting against our eardrum, will cause a change within our DNA. Yes, my friends, this is how it works. Again, those who have an ear to hear, let them hear. If you don't want to believe it, then this is not for you. That's fine. But for those who have an ear to hear, listen and learn. Because there's a whole lot of crap being spoken out there on Facebook and on the internet. Crap. It's like I heard a man on Facebook the other day talking about how when it says that God created the heavens and the earth, that the heavens is the angels. My friends, if you really want to understand the truth, you want to know the truth, study Kabbalah and read the Zohar, because the Zohar will tell you the truth of things, and that is what we'll be sharing with you. So every Sunday night and Tuesday night we have a 30-minute Zohar call dedicated to Jamaica. What do I mean by dedicated to Jamaica? Is because the energy is focused towards Jamaica. Okay? The energy is directed towards Jamaica. So that, because, and there are students, we have a few students in Jamaica that when they connect to the Zoom link and either they're participating through reading of the English, or some of them read Aramaic, but just listening, just being a channel, like Brother Paul, if you're out there listening, big up yourself. Patrice, Sister Patrice, her sister Pat, Brother Richard, DJ Neil, if you're out there listening, big up yourself from World Vibes Radio. Again, it's all about the Zohar, and it's all about the wisdom, my friends. Okay? Alright. So, that was a mouthful. And we're going to get right into the Zohar, because when I play the Zohar, it elevates the program immediately. Wherever the words of Zohar are spoken, it elevates our surroundings. Whoever is hearing it, it elevates them. It raises them up from where they are, gives them energy, takes them out of chaos. So we're gonna start with okay. So normally, and for those of you who have been listening for some time, you've heard me say to ride the wave. Yes, learn to ride the wave of energy, because we're talking about energetic forces. It's all about the energy. And we want to be able to raise our frequency. We want to be able to raise our frequency. And we can do that by various ways. One is by listening to the Torah, especially on a Saturday. Yeah. And the other is listening to the Zohar, or participating in the Zohar reading, listening or reading. Right? Or access. So, but these are the things that we can do to immediately begin to improve and increase our vibration. And it sets the tone for the rest of the program. Alright? Instead of it being at the end of the program, we're pulling it towards the top. So, the portion of Re'eh, which is what we're going to be reading this coming Saturday, which is Deuteronomy chapter 11 verse 26 to chapter 16 verse 7. There is no Zohar portion for it. And what we're taught is that when there is no Zohar portion, in other words, there's no commentary on that portion of the Torah, It means that it is so concealed. The energy wanted to remain concealed, and therefore did not reveal itself to any of the great sages. All right? So trust me when I tell you, all you have to do is just listen. And remember, you can see this online at zohar.com. And forgive me if I sound a bit nasal. I have terrible allergies, and it's allergy season here in New York. So let me play Zohar, and we're going to be reading from the prologue, volume 1, the prologue, and we're going to be starting off on page 114, verse 189, and this is called the Precepts of the Torah. And I want to thank one of our fellow students for recording this for us. All right. And Hashem bless you. Prologue, chapter 21, the Precepts of the Torah. A synopsis. The Zohar embarks on a discussion that pertains to 14 significant spiritual precepts. Here's the first precept. This is the first step in developing a true connection and attachment to the light of the Creator. To violate this particular precept is to transgress all the precepts of the Torah. Okay. All right. Verse 189, Aramaic.
The Zohar Prologue, Precepts of the Torah. Verse 189. Bereshit bara Elokim hadahi bikuda kadma'a dekala ve'ichrei bikudada yirat Hashem de'ichrei Reshit dichtiv Reshit chokhmah yirat Hashem Yirat Hashem Reshit da'at bekin demilada Reshit ichrei v'da'ichi tar'a le'ala go mehemnuta v'yal pikodada itkayam kol alma.
Okay, verse 189, English. In the beginning, Elohim created. This is out of Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Right? In our Bible that we're familiar with, it says, in the beginning, God created. When we go to the Torah, which is the Old Testament, and we go to the translation of the Hebrew, they never use the word God. Because God has multiple names, various names. Right? Rapha, which is the healer, right? And Elohim is the aspect of God filled with judgment. The left column, also known as Binah, the world to come. So again, verse 189 says, in the beginning, Elohim created. And then it will go on to further discuss what is meant by that. That's what the Zohar does for us. It takes a phrase or a concept out of the scriptures, out of the Old Testament, and expounds upon it. Helps us to understand truly what the Creator is trying to say here and what energies might be available, what we can tap into through knowledge and understanding. So it says, this is the first and foremost precept of all. And this precept is called the fear of the Hashem. Now, Hashem is another name for God. It is actually literally means the name, because the word Shem S-H-E-M, is name. And you put ha. Ha is a definite article, which means the. So the fear of Hashem, of the name. And Hashem is what is the word, the name for God that you will hear most often. Because it is a fairly general name used for the creative force. Alright? So, again, let me repeat. This is the first. In the beginning, Elohim created, quote unquote. This is the first and foremost precept of all. And this precept is called the fear of the Hashem, which is called the beginning. As it is written, the fear of Hashem is the beginning of wisdom. You've heard that. This is out of Psalms 111 verse 10. It goes on to say that the fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge. This is in Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7. Okay? So you see, the Zohar is taking these phrases out of the Torah. Now, to support my claim that the Torah is more than just the 5 books of Moses, right? Here it is, the Zohar itself is taking a quote out of Psalms and a quote out of Proverbs, and it is helping us to understand what that means. So Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7 says the fear of, in our Bible, the Christian Bible, it says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Excuse me, the beginning of knowledge. But here it says the fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge. Because this fear, or awe, is called a beginning. And it is the gateway through which one enters into faith. So based on this precept, this very first precept, the whole world is able to exist. Now imagine that. Listen to that explanation. We just touched upon the very first precept, and I hope your mind has opened up. Again, you're not going to hear anything like this anywhere else, my friends. So keep listening if you want to hear true wisdom. We're going to go to verse 190.
Verse 190. Yir'ah itperash, litlat sitrin, teren minaychul, let bechu ikra, kidkayaot, bechad ikra, de yir'ah, it bernash, de dekel mi chadosh, beruchu, begin de yichon, בנוחי ולה ימותון, או דקל מעונשה, דגופי או דמומני וילדה, דקל לה תדיר ישתכח, יראה, דהי דקל לקדוש ברוך הוא, לה שווה לאיכרה, ויתברנש דדקל אמין, Kadosh Baruch Hu, begin de hel me onesha, de hakhu alma, ve onesha de gehinom, teren ilen lav ikna, de yir'a, inune vesharsha dile.
Okay, let's go. Let's start that again. Verse 190. Fear is divided into three types. Two have no fundamental sources, and one is the actual source of fear. There is a person who fears and respects the Holy One, blessed be He, so that his children will live and not die. Or because he is afraid to be punished through his body or his wealth. Right? Aren't there people like that? They fear because they don't want anything to change about them. They don't want to be hit with any chaos or any, evil tidings. Yeah? It says this person, therefore, is always afraid of him, the Creator. But we can see that the fear he has of the Holy One, blessed be He, has no actual source. That is, it is not fundamentally genuine, because his own benefit is the root cause, while the fear is only its result. And there is a person who fears the Holy One, blessed be He, because he is afraid of the punishment that awaits him in the other world. In other words, after he dies. And the tortures of Gehenna. So there are people who fear because they don't want to be tortured because of wrongdoings. These two kinds of fear, namely the fear of punishment a person receives in this world and the fear of the punishment in the world to come, are not the essence of fear nor its genuine source. Let's continue. Verse 191.
Verse 191. Yir'a Dehi ikhara elemidkhol bernash lemari begin deikhu rav veshalit ikhara vesharsha Nichol almin v'chola chemei chola cheshuvin chema deitmad v'chol dayarei ar'a kela cheshuvin ul shava'a reutei bechachu atar deichrei yir'a.
Okay. Verse 191 English. The fear that is essential and genuine occurs when a person fears his master because he is almighty and governs all, because he is the main source and essence of all worlds, and everything that exists is as nothing compared to him. As it is written, all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. This particular phrase comes out of Daniel, the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 32. So you see, again, the Zohar is using something other than, or a place other than in the 5 books of Moses to explain something, to explain a concept. Daniel chapter 4, verse 32. And it says a person should concentrate his desires to that place which is called fear. So this is the precepts, right, of the Torah, and there are 14 of them, and we're just discussing the very first one, right? So we started reading this because I wanted to, again, elevate our consciousness, and the quickest way to do that is to read the Zohar. So we've done that. So I know you probably found this very, very interesting, right? But we're not going to stick in that. We're going to move on to other. We're going to move on to other pieces. So let's see here. I think there's someone. Is anyone in the chat? Let's see. Nope, no one in the chat. Okay, very good. All right, so that was the Zohar. And again, if you want to hear more Zohar, I encourage you to join us on Tuesdays, because at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 in Jamaica, we switch over to the Zohar reading that is dedicated to Jamaica. And friends, I'm telling you, if you begin to listen to the Zohar, all right, miracles are going to start happening in your life. you're going to start to see things change in your life in a very quick way. All right?
Hello, friends.
So, yeah. So that's the Zohar. And let's move on to really what we wanted to talk about tonight, which is the upcoming Torah portion of Re'eh this Saturday. And again, I encourage you. Now, some of you maybe work on Saturdays, or you may, have other obligations, right? And you've heard me say before, if you have to work on a Saturday, it's okay. Don't feel guilty. You got to support your family, right? Until you're able to merit that you don't have to work on Saturday, because the Saturday is the Shabbat. Contrary to most people who are not an Israelite, because the Israelites, as well as the Seventh-day Adventist Christians are the closest to the Israelite way, in the fact that they observe the Shabbat from Friday night, sundown Friday, to sundown Saturday. That is the true Sabbath, not Sunday, my friends. Okay? The Catholic Church came and changed it on us, and that was not the Sabbath. Because you have to understand, the seventh day is Saturday. Even if you look at your calendar, the Gregorian calendar, right? The first day of the week is Sunday, and the seventh day is Saturday. And when I find it, I'm going to play this quick lecture from a cardinal, an archbishop from the Catholic Church, who said that the Catholic Church changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday for no reason other than they just wanted to. And I believe they just wanted to be different. And again, you've heard me say last night, the early church fathers, I believe, were Jews who wanted to get away from the law. And because they wanted an easier way for people to join their numbers, okay, and to give them some kind of credibility, they relaxed a lot of the laws. In fact, Christianity itself says that you don't have to live by law anymore. You only have to live in faith in Yeshua, in Jesus Christ of Nazareth. What a travesty. Why is that a travesty? Because the world is built upon a framework of cause and effect. It's built upon laws, not just on faith. We live in the realm known as Malhut, the world of Asiya, the fifth world. There are 5 worlds. The lowest, and which includes the realm of physicality, is Malhut, which is also known as kingdom. King David being the chariot of this realm. Christianity says that you don't have to live by law anymore. Just live by faith in Jesus. Those who have an ear to hear, let them hear it. That is false. I'm just making it as plain as I can. That is not true. The world is built upon a framework of cause and effect. And these portions, and I'm going to read something out of the Kabbalistic Bible, right, which I encourage, if you really want to learn, if you really want to connect to this wisdom, you have to study, and you have to read, and you have to listen. You're going to hear these 3 books, upcoming portions, right? You're going to hear a lot of the Creator saying, if you follow my laws and my statutes and my ordinances, it will be good with you. The rain will fall, your crops will grow, your children will be fruitful, right? You'll live a good life. it appears very conditional. And a lot of people don't like that. They say, what kind of conditional love is that? But guess what? God's love is not conditional. However, the benefits of living a good life are conditional. And if you want to live a good life, follow God's laws and His commandments and His statutes and His ordinances and His way that He recommends and suggests. And then things will be good with you. That has nothing to do with love. Because the scriptures tell us that those who He loves, He chastises. So don't make Christianity come and tell you, don't believe, say all you got to do is live in faith in Jesus. That's a lie. Plain and simple. And it's a lie spun by the evil inclination, by the Satan, to trip people up and to give people a false idea of what is true. Even Paul in the New Testament said that faith without works is dead. You know, Judaism has been known as the religion of do's and don'ts. Okay? In fact, there are 613 mitzvot. 613 things that we should do or not do. 248 of those 613 are things that we should do that will draw blessings to our lives. 365 of those are the things that we should not do. Things that we should stay away from. Things that bring chaos into our lives. We should learn what those things are. Not that you must obey all 613, because even one of them is to give your wife a divorce when necessary. That's a mitzvot. Now, if you're not married, how can you observe that mitzvot? So, for those people who feel that, how can I, live by all of these laws? It's not about that. These are, the Creator is laying out how the spiritual system is laid out. Okay? How it is made up. And these laws are just helping us to understand that, so that we can navigate it properly. 613 channels, 613 ways to connect to the creative force. So by not doing a particular action, okay, which will draw negativity to you, you are actually connecting to the creative force by not doing it. Like, for instance, there's one commandment, one mitzvot that says do not pray next to an unclean place. Okay? Do not. So do not pray next to a garbage can or a place that is filthy or unclean. Right? So that's something that you don't do, because if you do it, it's going to draw negativity to you. Right? And again, thank God for the internet. If you want to know what those 613 are, just Google it. Alright? And remember that Noah had 7. He had 7 laws. And Noah is before Abraham, is before Moses. So before the Torah was actually given, okay, physically given, we had those souls who understood through divine inspiration how to live their lives properly. So, let's see. I'll play a tune, yes? I'm going to talk a little bit about, read something from the Kabbalistic Bible. And then I'm going to play a lecture. And hopefully I should be able to get both lectures in. Yes, we have an hour. It is now 10:03 p.m., 9:03 in Jamaica. You're listening to Diaspora Connection featuring Kabbalah for Jamaicans.
Oh, Jah, here I and I answer to your cry. Yeah, yeah. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me, yeah. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me. I'm in the midst of strangers, strangers without love and mercy, strangers without dignity, strangers who don't want to live in harmony. Bless me, mighty God, bless me so that I can trust me. Bless me, mighty God, bless me. Bless me, mighty God, bless me so that I can trust me. Bless me, mighty God, bless me. For they have dug the pit and are waiting to see me fall again. Yes, they've all prayed to her, so without your help, I know I suffer. Hear me while I call on you and help me to conquer. Only you are fair. Be with me everywhere. They're trying to see me fall, but with you, Jah, I stand tall. Ooh, yeah. Bless me. Oh, Jah, bless me. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me, yeah. Why should a man choose to live his life this way, yeah? All you wanna do is fuss and fight every day. Each day you get up, you fuss and quarrel. Oh Lord, dumping your brothers in deep waters and barrels. Sisters informing in sisters, sons murdering mothers. Fathers hate to see the very sight of their own children. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me, yeah. Ooh-wee. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me so that they can curse me. Bless me, mighty Jah, bless me, yeah. Bless me. I'm in the midst of strangers.
Yes, that was Garnet Silk in Bless Me. And I want to apologize to those of you who are listening on YouTube, and if the music was a bit distorted, I just adjusted the levels, so forgive me there. I think Facebook sounded a bit better, but again, I apologize. I hope things are sounding better for you now. Alright, learning how to ride the wave of energy, because this is what we're talking about here. Again, Kabbalah is not a religion. It is a science. It's a science of how to connect to the light force energy. The light force, which is the creator. Again, we don't use the term God too much, alright? We use the term creator, and then we use different names to describe different attributes of the creative force. Because we want to be able to connect. We need to understand. That's why you need to learn. Keep listening, my friends, so that you can learn. Because it is only through consciousness, by understanding. The scriptures tell us, knowledge is the principal thing, but in all thy getting, get understanding. Right? You must understand. And that is wisdom. Because you got to put the puzzle together. And by putting the puzzle together, you learn how to navigate this world. And how to deal with people and situations. Because I used to tell my children, You cannot control how people behave. The only thing you can control is how you behave. If you're lucky, you can control the way you behave. Right? If you've mature, because many of us are ruled by our emotions and have triggers or buttons that people can push and cause us to behave in a particular way. Right? I was about to say I have no buttons that people can press. That's not true, because I'm married. And unfortunately, I don't take kindly to BS and to crap. So when certain people approach me with certain things, I may react, right? But I'm reducing that behavior, and I'm learning not to react, because you see, the dark force, the evil inclination, knows that all he has to do is to get us to react. And then the universe takes over, because there are laws in place. You know where it says the wages of sin is death? It's not God punishing anybody, you know. It's not God. It's the system that takes over. So when you start to act in a particular way, which is against the nature of creation, okay, or against the natural order, the universe takes over and will give you recompense for your behavior. It's physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Right? So it is in the spiritual world. But we are given tools. The Kabbalists have been given tools on how to sweeten judgment. What do we mean by sweetening judgment? It means that you can, in other words, you have a good karma bank and you have a bad karma bank. Every time you perform some negativity, you increase your negative karma bank. And every time you perform an act of sharing or goodness, you increase your positive energy bank. So if you do something negative, right, and then judgment is coming for you, because that's how the system is set up, it will take a hit against your, it can't take a hit against your good karma bank, so that the judgment that is supposed to reach you is not as harsh. That's what we mean by sweetening judgment. All right? So that is why it is important to learn. Not only to learn, but to practice what you learn. All right? So, again, learning how to ride the wave. Because next week, Tuesday, right, is the new moon of Virgo. The new moon of Elul, which is the Hebrew word for Virgo. Now, why is that significant? Because that is the 30 days prior to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the 6th day of creation. Man was created on Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah is known as the Israelite New Year. It is basically the beginning of a new cycle. And the 30 days prior to that is known as the days of repentance. It is known as the days of repentance because it is 30 days that the Creator gives mankind, to get their act together, to reflect upon their previous year, so that they can go into the holiday confessing their sins, so that they are not harshly judged. Friends, let me tell you something. At 16 years, may I do this, and may I tell you, it's magical. It's mind-blowing to see what these guys do. Right? And next week we'll talk about it, okay? But for this week, I want to talk about Re'eh, and I want to get to these lectures because they're amazing. You know what? Yeah, let me read a little bit from the portion of Re'eh out of the Kabbalistic Bible, and then we're going to go into the lecture, right? So it says here that Re'eh, right, which is Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 26 through chapter 16, verse 17. It says Re'eh, and the two chapters that follow it, Softim and Kititze. Softim is Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18 through 21, chapter 21. And Kititze is chapter 21, verse 10 through chapter 25. And it says that the next three books hold the bulk of the Creator's commandments, ordinances, and statutes found in the book of Deuteronomy, which is the fifth book of Moses. It says, when Moses gave his preamble to these commandments, ordinances, and statutes, the essence of his message was that the Israelites' choice of whether or not to observe them was essentially a choice between being blessed or cursed. The chapter of Re'eh begins with, behold, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. We may ask why the Creator began by telling us to behold. Yet the real question should actually be, what is the Creator telling us to behold? At every moment, our eyes take in the physical world around us, but without necessarily ever seeing the deeper truth that underlies our world. Of course, we don't even see the world, the physical world, as it is. Our eyes invert an image, and our brains have to compensate it by reversing it again. Did you know that about the eyes, my friends? Did you know that our eyes see things upside down, and it's our brain that have to turn it right side up? Did you know that? The commentator says here, at every moment, our eyes take in the physical world around us, but without necessarily ever seeing the deeper truth that underlies our world. Of course, we don't even see the physical world as it is. Our eyes invert an image. Our brains have to compensate it by reversing it again. Although this compensation takes place without our conscious awareness, this is the reality of vision. Why did the Creator make eyes that see things upside down? It is to teach us that what we think we are seeing in other people is really a reflection of ourselves. Only the righteous are without being fooled. They see the truth because they don't project themselves and their own failings onto others. It says the ability to recognize a true prophet, and more generally the topic of true sight, are closely connected to this chapter of the Bible. Yeah? So, you know what? I'm going to stop right there. And I'm going to go right into this lecture from Michael Berg on this portion, all right, known as Re'eh. And it is called Re'eh, the Messiah Within Us. And it's 36 minutes.
What we're going to share is, I know for myself, a very exciting but very important teaching. So the portion begins with a very interesting choice of words. And we know the Zohar makes this clear and the Kabbalists make clear that the words, the structure chosen in any part of the Torah is very specific and has many secrets to reveal. So I want to begin by focusing simply on the first two words of this week's portion. It says Re'eh, see, and Re'eh is the singular. If you want to tell a group of people to see, there's another word for that, Tir'u or Re'u. But if you're talking to one person, you say Re'eh, I want you to see. Anochi, again, an interesting choice of word. The Creator, it seems to be implying, speaking of the Creator, God, I. But of course, there's other words for I. There's Ani. The Creator could have said I in the term of Ani. So why these two choices? Re'eh, si, but talking to the individual in the singular form, and anochi. Anochi, again, is an interesting word which we'll come to understand the secret of. But those two words then follow with, I put before you bracha uklala, blessings and curses. So if we come to understand the secret of those two words, we will come to understand the secret of how we can truly draw blessings and not curses into our lives. So I want to start with the first word, re'eh. Why in this week's portion? And again, if you look at most of the other portions, it's because the Creator, through Moses, is speaking to all the Israelites. It's always plural. Why, in this case, speaking about the ability to draw blessings into our lives, does the Creator choose to use the singular, re'eh? So, one of the great Kabbalists, the Kli Yakar, says the following. Lefi she'amru, as it says in the Talmud in Kiddushin, Le'olam yedameh ki'ilu haya kol ha'olam mechza al mechza, that a person should always view the world teetering in the balance of 50% positive, 50% negative. That's the way we should always, everything we're about to do something positive or we're about to do something negative, the thought that should come into our lives is, the world is completely balanced now. There's 50% light and there's 50% darkness. Asa mitzvah achat, if I do a positive action, hichriya et atzmo bet kol ha'olam lekaf zchut, I have now transformed the entire world to a positive state. And chas v'shalom, if I do a negative action, I have brought the entire world to a negative state. That negative action to a negative state. And that's why the Creator in this week's portion, uniquely different than most other portions in the Torah, is speaking to each one of us individually. So if there's one portion, there's one Shabbat, where there is an individual message, a message and light that is coming to each one of us individually, it's this Shabbat. And that's why the choice of the singular form, re'eh, si. What is it that we want to become awakened to individually on this Shabbat? So we come to the next word, anochi. Anochi, as we said, is a very interesting choice of words referring to the I. And one of the great Kabbalists, a student of the Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, writes in the Ma'or Vashemesh that that word can be very positive or it can be very negative. It says, Anochi omed ben Hashem uvenechem, which literally means I, in the form of Anochi, or the I, stands before you and the light of the Creator. And from there, the Kabbalists explain that when we feel ego, then when we feel I have done, I have accomplished, I am, that Anochi, that I, that ego, Omed ben Hashem uvenechem, that is a wall, a barrier that is created between ourselves and the light of the Creator. When a person looks back at where they are or what they've done and becomes filled with an I, with an ego, that becomes a barrier that no matter what light the person reveals, no matter what actions a person does, he or she can never truly receive the great light from the Creator. So usually Anochi represents the ego, represents the state in which an individual says, I've done so much good, I've shared with so many people. And that becomes a wall, a barrier between the individual and the light of the Creator. So usually, Anochi omed ben Hashem uvenechem, usually the I, in this form, is a barrier between the light of the Creator and the individual. That's usually. But he goes on to say, and these are words which I use all the time, and Bezrat Hashem, all of us will start using all the time. Lo kol ha'itim shavot. But not all times are alike, and therefore not all the time should we be pushing away the Anochi. Should we be pushing away the I? For instance, when a person is coming to pray, to ask, to do, to reveal light, to share with other people, if a person will start saying, I don't have an ego, who am I? There's other people who can do it, who should do it. How can I ask for myself? I'm such a, low person, and so on. Those thoughts. And therefore, because of that thought of no ego, of who am I, He doesn't ask, he doesn't share, he or she doesn't do. Lo yuchal yitkarev la'avodat Hashem. That is the barrier between, another barrier, right? So the I or the Anochi becomes a barrier when I think I have done. But the lack of Anochi, the lack of the I, also becomes a barrier between the individual and the light of the Creator when he or she is about to do. So rather, Begishto, what's the proper consciousness to have as we're coming, for instance, here to connect to the light of the Creator, to receive light? If we're going to pray, if we're going to meditate, if we're going to ask the light of the Creator, what should we be thinking in our mind? Le'ametz et levavo. We have to strengthen our heart, strengthen ourselves. Ve'yomar gibor ani lavo beheichal hamelech. And to say, I am truly strong, I am truly powerful. I have the ability, I have the strength to come before the light of the Creator and ask and receive and share and do. You have to strengthen your Anochi in this before you are coming to ask, before you are coming to pray, before you are coming to connect, before you are coming to share. You have to strengthen the Anochi. You have to strengthen the I. And therefore, only if you do this, Shemachzik et atzmo leyesh, you change your perception about yourself. You have the certainty and you have the consciousness, I am strong, I am powerful, I am deserving, I will come and ask for this and for that, I will share in this way and that way, I have the strength, I have the ability. Then, ze noten lifnechem bracha. That is what opens you up, being able to receive the blessings. So therefore he says, there's two types of Anochi. Two types of ego, two types of I. There's the negative I. When you're looking back at what you've done, what you've accomplished, that I is negative. That I creates a barrier between you and the light of the Creator. But on the other hand, when you are going to make a connection, when you are going to ask, when you are going to share, you have to first build up your I. Build up your Anochi. And it's a question we all have to ask ourselves, with what consciousness, unfortunately sometimes with no consciousness, but with what consciousness do we come when we come to pray, when we come to ask, when we come to connect? I think usually, even if we're thinking about it, okay, I'm an okay person, I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not a righteous person, I'm not the most elevated soul in the world, but I'll ask. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Re'eh anochi. The Creator is speaking to each one of us individually. And that's why the Creator chose not to speak to the congregation, to the group. Because if the Creator would have spoken to the group and said, you have to build up your Anochi, you have to build up your I, your sense of strength, of spiritual strength, then I could be sitting next to somebody more elevated than me and say, oh, that's for him or for her. Not for me because I'm low. No, the Creator says, Re'eh, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you. Every single one of us. Build up your Anochi. You have to build up your spiritual strength, your knowledge of your strength. Without that, chas v'shalom, there can't be bracha. Without that, there can't be blessing. There can't be the overwhelming light the Creator desires to give to us. So we begin this understanding, and this is what the Shabbat is about. And I'm telling you, by the way, that this is a tool that when you use it, you will see the difference. You will see the difference. When you come to connect, when you come to ask, when you come to share, first, Re'eh Anochi. Look into your I, into your strength, and build it. Build it. Only if you build it, you come and you say, no, I am strong. I do have the spiritual strength and the spiritual ability to draw great light. I do have the spiritual ability to share the great light with another person. I do have the spiritual strength to draw great light for myself and for the world. Then, bracha. Then you are able to truly receive the blessings in your life. But if you come, meek or not so certain that I have the ability, not so certain that I have the strength, chas v'shalom klala. Disconnect from the light of the Creator. So that's the first lesson, awakening gift of the Shabbat. Each one of us has to build before a connection, before prayer, before a request, before an action of sharing, build your spiritual ego. I have the strength. I have the ability. I have the power to be able to request and draw down great light. I have the ability to bring great light for myself, for the world. I have great light, the ability to share with other people. Re'eh anochi. Before you think of receiving blessings, first look, you, yes, you, every single one of us, not the other person who might be greater than you or the other person who might be stronger than you spiritually. I, build that I. And like I said, you will see when you come to connect, to meditate, to pray, to ask, or to share with other people, and you come with this consciousness, you first build up your I, completely different connection, completely different light, completely different blessing. So that's where we begin our connection today, our understanding of the Shabbat. This is the Shabbat of the spiritual ego. Re'eh anochi. See you. Your ego, build it up first before you attempt to make a connection, before you attempt to make a request, before you attempt to request. Build it up. Then bracha. Chas v'shalom, not if you still go and, I want to receive, I don't deserve so much, I'm not that strong, there's other people stronger. Chas v'shalom, disconnect from the light of the Creator. Re'eh anochi. Strengthen your spiritual ego, your knowledge. I do have the strength, the ability to bring great light for myself, to bring great blessings for myself and for the world. That's the first, that's the beginning. The second, for me, is, I think, even more exciting, more important. Towards the end of this week's portion, there's again a very interesting commandment, we'll call it. It says, Ki yeh becha evyon. If there's a poor person amongst you, this is the literal translation, we'll come to understand a deeper secret of these words. If there will be a poor man amongst you, me'achad achecha, from one of your brethren, be'achad sha'arecha, in one of your gates, in one of your cities, naton lo te'ametz et levavcha, don't harden your heart, ve'lo tikpotz et yadcha, and don't hold your hand closed, me'achicha ahevyon, from your poor brother. Ki patoach tiftach et yad chalo. You have to open up your hand to him. Okay, so it seems like a nice commandment. So, the Torah is filled with positive, moral, righteous things. So the Creator is telling us here, by the way, if there's a poor person in your city, open up your hand to them. That's one level. But the great Kabbalist, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, in his commentary, the Orach Chaim, opens up this verse. And it's always, I think, exciting when you can read a verse in the Torah, and in a literal sense, it's nice, it's important. But then, when the Kabbalists open up the gates, you suddenly see the power of the verse, the secrets of the verse. So he says the following. Ubederech remez, and the hint, the secret of this verse, Lehair ha'ara gdola al echad ha'miyuchad sheba'uma. Really what it's talking about is a very important member, a very important person. She'elav anu mekavim umetzapim matay yavo, that he is the person we are waiting for. V'hu meshichenu, he is the Messiah, the heralder, the person whom some people think will bring the end to pain, suffering, and death. Asher hu evyon, but he is in the state of being a poor person. Now, that some people take that to mean in a literal sense, but of course we understand it in a spiritual sense. It says, for instance, in Zechariah, in the book of Zechariah, that Mashiach, or the Messiah, that the person who is meant to be the person who announces or maybe brings about the end of pain, suffering, and death, he says he will be ani verochev al chamor. He will be a poor person riding on a donkey. Why does he have to be a poor person, right? I mean, we know, for instance, Moses was a very wealthy person. What does it mean that he's going to be a poor, or that he is a poor person? And further, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar says, so when it says in this week's portion, Ki yeh becha evyon, there's a poor person, it's not referring to simply a poor person who needs money, it's referring to the Mashiach, it's referring to the Messiah, to that force, to that person maybe, who will bring an end to pain, suffering, and death. Now, why is he poor? Because, of course, we're not referring to physical lack of money. We're talking about a spiritual state of lowness. That's what it means to be poor. Ve'amar, and that's why it says in this week's portion, the choice, it's a very interesting choice of word, ki yeh becha evyon. There's a poor person as an effect of you. Becha evyon. Ki avonoteinu he'erichu kitzenu. He is poor, he is in pain, he is lacking because of us. Our negative actions cause this essence, this entity, this person, if it is, that is called Mashiach, this force that is meant to bring an end to pain, suffering, and death, is lacking because of us. It says, for instance, in the Talmud, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi met this person called Mashiach, and Sha'alo, he asked him, Mashiach asked him, what's happening in the world, as if maybe he doesn't see or doesn't know. Ve'amar lo Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said to the Mashiach, said to the Messiah, Hem yoshvim umetzapim biato. They are sitting, interesting choice of word, they are sitting and waiting for Mashiach to come. They are waiting for the pain and suffering to end. Uksheshama ken ga'a hachasid bibchia rabba. The Mashiach, this righteous person, soul, entity, energy, whatever we will come to understand that it is, began crying. Michukato lavo legalam. Because he has such a desire to come and end the darkness that exists in our world, to end the pain and suffering that exists in our world. Interesting. Okay, so now we have a new view of this verse. Ki yeh becha evyon. Mashiach, the force that is going to end pain, suffering, and death, is weak, is poor, is in a low state. Why? Becha. Because of you, because of us. And it is our work, and therefore when it says, open up your hands, open up your heart, it's talking to us, elevate, grow, change, bring light to yourself and to the world, so that finally this poor man, this ani, this poor man who we're making poor, will have the strength to come and bring an end to pain, suffering, and death. Now, this is what the verse is talking about, speaking to us, saying, do something, awaken light, bring light into this world, so that this poor man doesn't remain poor, but can come and end pain, suffering, and death. Awaken power, awaken strength, push yourself even more than you've pushed yourself until now, so that that poor man, Mashiach, the Messiah, will have the strength to bring an end to pain, suffering, and death. So that's an interesting teaching. I think it's, an awakening, an important awakening. But that's not why I'm sharing with you this section. There's a very interesting thing that happens here. Those of you who know, and I've shared this in previous years, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar was a very elevated soul on many levels. One of my favorite stories about him, and I think about it every time we go to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Those of you who've had the merit to go to Meron, where the great light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai resides, it's on a mountain, not a very big mountain, but on top of a mountain. And it says that Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, who came from Morocco, the first time he came to Meron to visit the great light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, at the bottom of the mountain, he got off of his donkey, and he literally crawled on all fours to the top of the mountain, because he said he was so overwhelmed by the light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he couldn't walk straight. So Rabbi Chaim ben Attar was a great Kabbalist on many levels. So he's telling us here, teaching about Mashiach. There's this poor man, there's this poor being, Becha, because of us. Al te'ametz et levavcha, don't keep your heart closed, don't keep your work low. Do more, be'oz v'ta'atzumot, do great work, so that that poor man can become revealed. And then he says something very interesting at the end, and this is really a great secret, and I think, like I said, for me, and I hope for many of us, this is not only an exciting secret, but also an important awakening. Shi'arich adam bedato, a person should think in his or her mind, she'amaseh hu letachlit davar zeh shel Mashiach, that the reason I'm going to push myself more to do the spiritual work, to connect to the light of the Creator, to share with other people, to bring the light of the Zohar into the world, is for that poor man. And he ends with two words. Shmo, what's his name? What's the name of Mashiach? Now, if you've been in the center, you probably heard many different answers to this question. But Rabbi Chaim ben Attar tells us his name. Shmo, his name, Chaim. Isn't it interesting? Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, the author, says that the name of Mashiach is Chaim. It gets even weirder. There's an entire section in the Talmud, in Sanhedrin, where they try to discover, but wouldn't it be great, if we knew with this, if all you need to do is find a poor man named Chaim somewhere in the world, and he's Mashiach, and he'll be revealed, he'll end pain and suffering. So the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the sages are trying to discover, what is the name of the Messiah? Now here's something very strange. Mashmo, what is the name of the Messiah? Devei Rabbi Shila, those who studied with the great sage, Kabbalist, whose name was Shila, Amri Shila Shmo. They say the name of Messiah is what? Shila. Weirdly, the same name as their teacher. As it says, and they quote a verse in the book of Genesis, Ad ki avo Shiloh. And there's a verse that seems to indicate that Messiah is the name of Shiloh. Devei Rabbi Yanai, guess, those who were the students of Rabbi Yanai, what did they say was the name of Mashiach? Amri Yinon Shemo. It's a name very similar to their teacher's name, Yanai. The name is Yinon. As it says, again, bringing another verse from Psalms, Yehi Shemo Leolam Lifnei Shemesh Yinon Shemo. Again, a verse that seems to indicate the Messiah's name is very similar to our teacher's name. Devei Rabbi Chanina, those who were students of Rabbi Chanina, what do you think they guessed was the name of the Messiah, Mashiach? Right? Devei Rabbi Chanina, Amri Chanina Shmo. They said his name is Chanina. Isn't that strange? So Rabbi Chaim ben Atar says his name is Chaim. The students of Rabbi Shiloh says his name is Shiloh. The students of Rabbi Chanina say his name is Chanina. The students of Rabbi Yanai say his name was Yanai. What is this? Is this a joke? Each one's trying to say, and by the way, we know that if you ask the students of the Ari, what is the name of Mashiach? Yitzchak, right? Why? Because that's their teacher. Is that really what it is? So, the real answer, and this is a very important understanding, the word the Torah uses, Kiyeh becha evyon. It says, there's a poor man inside of you. Kiyeh becha evyon. Inside of you, there's a poor man. Which means, and this is the secret, and the rabbis speak about this very often, and I think maybe today we have a little bit more clarity about this. The big mistake that most of us make, even today, even those of us who are involved in the spiritual work, if you remember the story from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, it says, Messiah asked him, he says he met Messiah, and Messiah asked him, what is everybody doing? And the answer he gave was, Yoshvim umetzapim. They're sitting and they're waiting. Because people think Messiah is there, or him, or her, or that. The real Messiah is Becha. Ki yeh becha evyon. The light of Messiah, the light of Mashiach is me. What's the name of Mashiach? You ask me, this is what they answer. You ask me, what's the name of Messiah? Michael. Because there's a spark of Mashiach inside of me that is poor, that I am not giving any energy, I'm not giving enough light, and that's why he's not revealed. The name of Mashiach is your name. Ki yeh becha evyon. Within each one of us, there is this poor being which we're not paying attention to. This is the secret when it says Ani, when it says in Zechariah that Mashiach is poor because we're making him poor. Ki yeh becha evyon. Every single one of us has Mashiach inside of us. My piece of Mashiach. Why hasn't Mashiach come? The answer that I have to give myself is because the Mashiach called Michael has not been completely revealed yet. And every single one of us needs to answer this question. Why hasn't Mashiach come? Why is there still pain, suffering, and death in this world? Because of you. Because you're Mashiach and you haven't revealed that yet. Ki yeh becha evyon. Every single one of us has the Mashiach, that light of Mashiach inside of us. And what is Mashiach? When is the pain, suffering, and death going to end? When we, as the Messiah, as that force that is meant to bring an end to pain, suffering, and death, when enough of us reveal our Mashiach, so Mashiach has many different names, as many names as there are in the world. That's what Mashiach is. When it says, for instance, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he met the Messiah, he didn't meet a person, he met himself. Every single one of us has to ask that question. First, you have to know. By the way, one of the reasons why maybe sometimes you're unhappy or you're not feeling energized, very simple. There's this weight inside of you. There's this poor being, this ani, Kiyeh becha evyon, and it's pulling you down. Kiyeh becha evyon. Every single one of us has this force that's called Mashiach. And until we reveal it, first of all, we will not feel fulfilled. But more importantly, the world, Mashiach cannot be revealed. Mashiach, and whether or not there will at the end be an individual who says, by the way, I was trying to think of a very good parable. The first one that came to mind, if two teams are playing a game, let's say basketball against each other, and then the buzzer at the end of the game goes off, and the one team won. Did the buzzer make them win? Of course not, right? This team won. Happens to be, the buzzer tells you it's the end of the game. That's what Mashiach is. Mashiach is when enough people reveal their Mashiach, then, maybe there will or won't be a person who says, by the way, it's all over. Or we'll just see that suddenly pain is being removed, that suddenly death is being removed. But the most important thing to know is Kiyeh becha evyon. There is this poor being inside of you that is both making you feel unhappy, must be, because he's not happy, your greatest strength, your greatest force. We said before we began with the understanding, you have to build Re'eh Anochi, build your eye. What is the eye that we're really referring to? That eye of Mashiach. That eye that every single one of us has a spark. Some greater, some smaller, but every single one of us has a spark within us that has the ability to bring an end to pain, suffering, and death. But we're not revealing it. We're keeping it in pain. We're keeping it poor. And that's why when Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and by the way, we know, not coincidentally, he met Messiah, and he was one of the few people who never died, who was able to conquer death. Why? Because he met his Messiah. He revealed, he awakened, he brought into this world his light that is meant to bring an end to pain, suffering, and death. What is the name of Mashiach? What is the name of the Messiah? What is the name of the force that will bring an end to pain, suffering, and death? It's your name. It's your Anochi. And that is what this Shabbat is about. Each one of us come to an understanding that there is Becha Evyon. There is this poor being hidden inside every single one of us in pain. And what are we doing? What did when Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi finally discovered his Mashiach, what did Mashiach tell him? What did Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi tell him? What are we doing? Yoshvim umetzapim. They're sitting down. They're not working. They're not pushing. They're not doing. And they're waiting. And then Messiah is crying, is in pain, because if that's what you're doing, if you're sitting and waiting, never going to happen. Becha evyon. Every single one of us has that spark that must be revealed. First you have to know that it's there, and then you have to push yourself to reveal it. But every single one of us has that spark, and until enough of us reveal that spark, there's no person coming. There's nothing going to happen from Yoshvim umetzapim. There's nothing going to happen from those who sit and wait. We're all sitting and waiting. Becha evyon. What we want to understand on this Shabbat, what we want to ask for on Shabbat, I want to discover my Mashiach. I want to discover Mashiach named Michael, and every single one of us needs to discover the Mashiach that is them. Then there can be an end. We can be moving truly towards the end of pain, suffering, and death. And I want to share two stories which I heard just in the past day that, sometimes people ask, okay, so you're talking on a high level, what do you mean? So I'll talk about two stories that hopefully give us some inspiration to begin revealing our Mashiach. One is a little bit, so one of our friends, Mike, came over to me during the prayers, and he told me a story about a man who was here last night at the Connection, somebody who's not a student of the center in any way, and he had never really involved himself in the Zohar, and he was traveling, I hope I get the details right, he was traveling to London, and in London he walked into a bookstore and he saw the Zohar. And again, in his life, he wasn't, the Zohar didn't really mean very much to him, And the Tsar was there. It happened to be one of the center Tsars, but he wasn't interested. He flies from London to Cambodia. And he walks into his hotel. They were supposed to go to one hotel, and they didn't like that one. They went to a second hotel. And he walks into the hotel, into his room, I think, and he sees the Tsar. Can you imagine? I mean, how many messages does one person, even somebody who's not connected, need, right? So he goes down to the person behind the front desk of the hotel, says, I felt something. He said, I'd like to buy this book. Can I buy this book? And the lady says, listen, I don't know what this book is. I actually have one here in front of me on this desk too. I don't know where they came from. I've been here for 20 years. I have no idea where these books came from. He said, but let me ask the owner and see if I can, sell it to you. Long story short, the owner, who I guess is a student of the center in the Philippines, sent Tsars to this person and he gave him a Tsar. So I was thinking, when we talk about revealing the light of my Mashiach, right? So somebody went out of their way sometime to put a Tsar got a Tsar in that bookstore in London, and somebody went out of their way to get a Tsar in that hotel in Cambodia, and then somebody went out of their way in the Philippines to send this man a Tsar. That's the circuitry of Mashiach. People taking steps, one step, a big step, a small step, but from that drive, from that inner poor man, from that inner Mashiach. That's the first. And second, and I hope I don't embarrass her, there's a student here from Monterey. I was talking to Mordechai, and Blenera, it's a longer story than this, but she started studying Kabbalah on her own, not even knowing that there's a possibility of having a teacher for a number of years, and then again, finally, she connected with the teacher, but Blenera, up until this day, if I'm not mistaken, she's already connected hundreds of people with the light of Kabbalah and the light of the Zohar. So we all sit, and we, as unfortunately, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi answers to the Mashiach, to his Mashiach. Yoshvim umetzapim. We're sitting and we're waiting. And even those of us who are doing, I think we're all still in the category of Yoshvim umetzapim, waiting, sitting and waiting. And what this Shabbat is about is to break out of the sitting and waiting, to become clear, there's this force. Becha evyon. There is this force inside if you knew you were Mashiach, and you are, how much sitting would you still allow yourself to do? And that's what the Shabbat is about. And I'd like to end with, and I shared this I shared this last night, that this Shabbat is also the Shabbat of the elevation of Shimon, our teacher from all over the world. He was here, and he was in Miami, and he was in Mexico, and he was in France. One of the things, those of you who had the merit to know Shimon, one of the things that was truly unique about him is that he did know on some level that he needed to reveal his Mashiach. And he did it in what we call Mesirut Nefesh, giving up of himself to bring the light of Mashiach, the light of Kabbalah, the light of the Zohar into this world. And I shared when we were by Shimon on Thursday night, one of my more favorite sections in the Zohar, and it very much relates to everything we've spoken about now. It's in the Zohar in Tzav in section 71, Ayin Aleph. And it's really even where we began our connection today. Le'olam yireh adam atzmo, a person should always view himself, ki'ilu kol ha'olam talui bo, that the entire world is dependent on me. And now we understand that it's true. I'm Mashiach. There is this Becha Evion, there is this poor being inside of me waiting to reveal the light of Mashiach. V'yichaven benafshei uberuchei ubenishmatei. And you should meditate upon this in your soul, in your spirit, to know, to awaken, to think about this all the time. V'kudsha berichu metzaref machshava tova lemaaseh. And if you're constantly thinking in this way, then the Creator will bring together your thought and manifest it into action. How many of us really have believed the world is dependent on me? Kol ha'olam talui bo. There is that poor being inside of me, Mashiach, my name, my anochi, my being, my essence. And what am I doing? Yoshvim umetzapim, sitting and hoping. That's not going to bring Mashiach, because I am Mashiach. I have to push myself even stronger. If now that I know the world is truly dependent on me, now that I know that I am the poor Mashiach, how much more so do I have to push out? One person in Monterey touches hundreds of people. How many people do we touch? And we have the ability. We just have to have the knowledge and the desire.
Okay. So there you have it, friends. You know, my goodness, you know, I didn't listen to this lecture before. You know, the very beginning of it was pretty technical, and I was saying to myself, wow, you know, people are going to connect to this, you know, new people especially. But my goodness, the way it ended, wow. So, you know, we're supposed to end at 11 or 10 p.m. in Jamaica, but I'm going to be extending because I have another lecture from Karen Berg, his mother, Michael's mother, that I want to play. And I just want to comment on a few things before we move on. You know, I said earlier about how Christianity teaches that you don't have to live by law anymore and how that was a lie. Well, here's another lie. That Jesus is the Messiah. In the sense that he is the one that everybody's waiting for. Now, Kabbalah teaches that Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus of Nazareth, was one of the messiahs of his generation, because Kabbalah teaches that in every generation there are two messiahs. Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. Okay? Messiah son of Joseph and Messiah son of David. But as Michael indicated, right? If you're sitting down and waiting for the Messiah to come, forget it. We are the Messiah. Inside of each one of us is that spark. Right? Because Kabbalah teaches that, as he said, that the Kabbalists must believe that the world was created only for him. And if that's the case, that he is the one capable of saving the world and putting an end to chaos and suffering and pain. So what did he say? The only thing that is needed is desire, knowledge and desire. That's why I said to keep listening, friends, and you have to learn. Okay? This is what it's all about. This is why we have this program. Because people need to hear this wisdom. Isn't this liberating? Oh my God. This is why we have to do the spiritual work. This is why each and every one of us has to do their best, has to do the spiritual work, because the world is dependent upon us. My friends, you heard Michael talk about this is what this Shabbat is all about. Okay? I want to just touch on that, because one of the things I've been mentioning over and over and over and over again is you need to start listening to the Torah readings on Saturday, if you can. Okay? Because we're able to connect to an energy force that will help us, that will assist us. And when he talks about this is what this Shabbat is all about, every Saturday, every Shabbat provides us with a different energy. Okay? A different energy for us to be able to overcome the challenges of the week. And we can connect to the energy. It is there to help us. It's not there because God said. Right? It's for our benefit. Okay? It's for our benefit. So, again, let me give up my number, because I'm encouraging you to send me a text so that you can be included in getting the link, the Zoom link, to listen to the Torah reading. I said, even if you have to work, find time to listen to the Torah reading. Even if you're out to do your groceries or you're doing whatever on a Saturday. Okay? You have to do your errands, whatever it is you have to do. Don't let that stop you from listening to the Torah. Because you need the energy. It is for your benefit and the benefit of the world. Alright? So let me go into the lecture from Karen. Right? Which is called, again, about the same portion, Re'eh, a matter of perception. Alright, let's see. Here we go.
Portion is Re'eh, and I think most of you that are aware, that this was the Rav's portion. It was his birthday portion, as well as Jeremy Fowler. And the portion is a very significant one. It starts a series of 3 separate portions in which we are given the highway. You know, you travel this path, and the car is going to make it home, and you go on another path, and then you're on your own, kind of a thing. That's what will happen for the next 3 weeks. And in saying so, we talk about this particular, which will be the start or the seed of that energy. The parsha is called Re'eh. And most of us that know a little Hebrew know the word means to see. Now, when we see, our eye basically sees flat and black and white. That's the way we see. But our mind turns it around, and we perceive through our own intelligence, through our own mind. And that's why oftentimes what we see isn't really what is there, because our mind perceives. That's why you can have 2 people at an accident, and one says car A, hit car B, and the second person in the same place at the same time says, no, car B hit car A. How's that possible? Well, let's assume that somebody's prejudiced to the type of a car, and he sees it being destroyed by another car, so he sees the offender as the other person, meaning that our mind, that we perceive things that may or may not be so. You know, sometimes they've found cases in which you walk into a room and you find 2 people, they look like they're in a compromising position, right? But maybe he's just welcoming the other person and saying, hi, and how are you? You don't know, but it depends on how one perceives. And perception is very much limited to the person's ideas, and he can incorporate that. So when Moshe is saying to see, he's saying something else. Moshe is saying, see me. See who I am and see what I've done. Moshe was very, very tall and distinctive. He looked the same as he did as when he left Egypt, never aging. He was a wealthy man. He was intelligent. But more than anything else, he clung closely because he was part of the Creator in every way. He was able to speak with him as a man to a friend. Now, most of us in our lifetimes won't even get to see the angels to be able to create that kind of a consciousness. But what Moses was saying is, as we go in life to different places, don't ever lose your connection to the Creator. Because when you lose the connection to the Creator, then sometimes we can become idol worshipers. Now, what's an idol worshiper? Anybody got a favorite basketball player? Wow, that guy's got to be really smart. He's got to be really tough. He's got to be really great. The answer is he doesn't have to be. He's a good basketball player. He could be good at that. And anybody have people that we recognize like Warren Buffett? You know, brilliant man. He is a brilliant man, of course. But do we sort of want to be like him? Do we worship the man? Do they become people that we want to be with because of the class that they're in and the things that they do? If they are, this is indeed part of idol worship. Because every person that's put into a position in their lives, be it wherever it might be, are being put there so that they might be able to change and understand that this place that you're in at this moment in your life is part of your process to see, are you going to forget that the reason that you're there in the first place is because it's a test in your life to see how you're going to develop your spiritual tools? Because if you don't, then things will occur in a fashion that's perhaps not to our liking. Every time we don't do a positive action to prove that even though I seem to be fulfilled in where I am, I seem to be happy, I seem to be growing in my position, or I seem to be growing in my status, my way of life, I've never forgotten that it's only because the Creator has allowed me the tools to allow me to be where I am. And because of that, I will never forget, I will never lose my consciousness that even though I may see around me everything and it's great and I don't need anything at this point, you always need to connect to that light force, because if you don't, in an instant in time, all of it can be removed from you. Nothing is for granted. And the only way we allow that to happen is what Moshe said, look at me. I have all those things to be fulfilling in life. And yet I know that without my connection, without the me that's connected to the nobodiness, to the end of my ego-ness, I can be nothing. And I've never forgotten that point. So I want you, the people, the Israelites, who come to enter into the land, to understand that each person, wherever they are in their life, has been put there for a test. And when we go through the various tests that we have in life, and each and every one of us are tested, the moment that we go above that, the moment that we accomplish whatever we need to accomplish and finish that test, we gain that value. We gain the higher level to the soul. So, people know, and people have gone through many different terrible tests in their life. And that's another thing. He says, I hand you blessings and curses. I mean, why do you have to hand curses? What is this whole thing about? Is he cursing the people? Matter of fact, what does he say? He says to go to these two mountains, which, by the way, that sit in the place where Joseph is buried. And right there where Joseph is buried on the both sides is the mountains, Gerizim and Ovel. And it says, and on one mountain there'll be blessings, and the other mountain there'll be curses. It seems very strange, because, who wants to go to the mountain of the curses, right? But listen to what it's about. A person gets ill, and they find themselves thinking about their life. They find themselves saying to themselves, really what I've done, what have I changed, what have I become that allows me to be more than the cattle? I mean, cattle live, reproduce, and die. What have I done that's different? And suddenly, in those moments, people change. People start thinking, I have to become more out there. I have to become more aware of what's around me. I have perhaps to share with my community. I have to do something for my friends. I have to make a difference. Now, was the illness a curse? Yeah, right? The answer is no. The illness was a knock on the door that said, wake up. Because if you don't wake up, unfortunately, you're losing your purpose for being here. And that's what it means by a blessing and a curse. Also, of course, we know that Abraham had 2 children, right? And Isaac had 2 children, right? And one was with the light and the other one was less with the light until later on in life. So we also understand that a curse is not necessarily something that is a bad thing when it helps you become the person that you need to be. But the exception is, what happens to the person who has all the capacity and all the ability, and yet spiritually he's bankrupt? Spiritually he feels like What do I need this nonsense for? You know, why should I have to pray? I have to go. I'm not even sure there's anything up there waiting for me. Don't believe in it. I don't believe in things. And you go about your life. You go about your life and go about your life. But there comes a day in every person's life where he says to himself, is this truly all there is? And even if there's nothing up there, there's down here. There are things that I can change. There are things that I can do here. There are things that I can do with other people that will make a difference. And if we realize that, if we come to that consciousness, then and only then can we change and be part of our higher self. And that's what this Parsha is talking about, being able to see those things. And then it says an interesting thing. It says, you know, find the place where the Temple Mount is to sit and, you know, erect the temple when you cross over to the new land, to the land of Israel. They spent hundreds of years in Shiloh. That's where the first temple was, and in different locations. You mean to tell me that they couldn't understand from Abraham that the Temple Mount needed to be in Jerusalem? What happened? Why for all those years did they put the tabernacle in a place that was not its home? And why did it take David to say, this is the space, and this is where the temple will be erected, and it'll be my son Shlomo that will do the job? What happened all those years? So it says that when these people entered the land, they weren't qualified, they weren't spiritually enlightened enough to understand where the temple, and once if the temple were to be built there, the environment would change in a way that they were not ready for. And therefore, it took that amount of time to find the areas in which they could draw energy from. It was easier to draw energy, let's say, from Shiloh than it was from Yerushalayim, from Jerusalem. And the reason being is that as we grow and as we go up our spiritual scale, our tests are not less. People that are looking for an easy way out don't study spirituality. Go and live your life. Because when you start learning something, when you start attaching yourself to something, you have a ladder is dropped from above. And you have to climb it. And the higher the climb, the more you sweat, the more you involve yourself, the higher you become, the more spiritual you become, the more connected you become. But it doesn't make life easier, folks. It makes life more difficult. Suddenly, you will find yourself in situations, and are there people, I'm sure there are people here, how many people are in Kabbalah 1? Nobody? All right, that's pretty good. What I wanted to say is that people that start their journey start with X amount of friends in their lives, living their lives in a certain direction. And lo and behold, 6 weeks into the trip, a year into the trip, we don't have the same friends anymore. We don't, is that right? How many say yes? Aye, right? We don't have the same, we don't even have the same concepts anymore. You know why? Because our consciousness through the teachings of spirituality changes. Things become important in a different level, in a different place in life. Friendship becomes important in a different place, in a different level in life. Alternative things, you suddenly say to yourself, do I really have to go out and have coffee and tea and talk about other people every afternoon? Do I really have to, visit with these people who, were kind of negative, but they're fun. I enjoy being with them. And suddenly it becomes, I don't know if I enjoy that anymore. And it's only because the moment that you lean towards a way, if it's a spiritual way and you lean towards that spiritual way, your life will change. Even without you wanting it to change. It changes because you tweak your consciousness and it goes in an area that's very different than it was before. You see things, you perceive things. As I said originally, that your mind turns it around and your perception changes. And all of a sudden you don't see the forefront, you see the background. Gestalt talks about this. That's his whole theory, that the reason that we don't recognize things is because we're concentrated on what's here and our peripheral vision is damaged. We don't see what is around us. We don't see What is there motivating, pushing this image, this focus image in front of us? When we learn, when we start to be a part of something, not necessarily here, any spiritual teaching, our perception changes. We see things differently. And that's what they were talking about. That is why the temple eventually got to Jerusalem, and not before that, because the vision wasn't there, the spirituality wasn't there. And then to make something happen, there has to be a cumulative spiritual energy. And if I want to know if that's true, take a look at the world today. You see that what we sorely need is to have a place where we can talk at least about hiring people's consciousness. Because the things that happen in our world are happened, unfortunately, by people like ourselves that are not interested in what's happening there, or what's happening in Syria or in Iraq and the Ukraine. They're only interested in their thing, what's happening there. They're not interested. And that reminds me of a story that brings home the point. Many years ago, there was a woman here on life support, and there was a whole court case between her family, her mother and her father, and her husband. And the husband wanted to take her off life support, and the family refused. And there was this whole battle. It was on the news constantly. And then they said they had a news break. And they had a breaking news. 1,300 people were killed by a flood someplace in the world. 1,300 people were killed by a flood. And then it goes back and says, now let's go back to the news about this one girl on life support. You know why? Because it happened here in the United States. It was important to the people here to know what happens with this woman. Now, I'm not saying it's not important what happens to a single individual. That's not what I'm bringing home. The point I'm bringing home is that the negative things that are happening in the world should be part of our daily consciousness, should be a part of saying, how is there something that we can do to change that? And whether it's in Israel or in Iraq or in the Ukraine or Belgium or any place in the world that is upside down, it's upside down because we are in a time in our existence where either we will do something to change it or we won't. And that's where we are, because you know this whole story with what I spoke about on Pesach, and I told you that we're going to go through this. I told you that there would be a war in the Middle East. But I'm also telling you now that September, October, the culmination of that second spirit, this is the second astral thing that's going to happen. They call the blood moon, which is a series of eclipses that starting now will happen until October 8th or October 10th. It will not be a good time in the world. It will, and certainly we know how it directly affects Israel as a nation. Because the first time of the blood moons was the Inquisition, and the second time was the establishment of the state of Israel. And by coincidence, the third time in history it happened was in the Six-Day War. Okay? And now we're looking at the same occurrence one more time. And what we're looking for is to create an occurrence that will happen in a way that will culminate into a place of peace and understanding. And there's only one way that can happen. You and I sitting here say to ourselves, what can we do? We're a single person. But remember that a person is not a single person. A person has children, has employees, has an employer, has friends, have people that are around them, and each one of those people are a world unto themselves because they can alter the way these people act and react in a spiritual and conscious manner. That's what we can do. We can alter, and just think about it. If each one of us can alter 50 people, how many is that? And that becomes cumulative. That's what we need to do. So that we can try to bring some sense. Because my feeling is that we are at a very crucial time in the history of the world. You know, it says that in the Torah itself is absolutely plainly written the time of the Messiah and when he'll come. Can you read it? I can't. The reason that we can't is because we don't have the perception to read it. But we can change our consciousness. We can change our perception. We don't know, we don't need to know when the Messiah will come. We just need to know what we can do to make that happen. And that's the concept of curses and blessings. It's not a curse in terms as we understand it. Oftentimes, there were people in the world with terrible disabilities who became very great souls for the common good because they didn't allow that disability to be a poor me, to become a victim, to say, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. Or even if they acquire things, they needed to surround themselves. They say to themselves, I'm in a position that irregardless of how it affects me, I will be effective. I will allow myself to help and bring change into the world for the better. And then it talks about the three festivals, which is Shavuos, Pesach, and Sukkot, which are the happy times of the year. One is the time of the ingathering, one is the time of harvest, the other one is, of course, the time of the giving of the Torah. And those three holidays are the holidays that they talk about where people are supposed to go to Israel and see the Temple Mount. And in those particular times, in the times of joy, in the times of happiness, is the times that we need to remember that the spirituality in which we have, or the spirituality in which we choose to grow, has to happen because most people call the Creator when? When they need something. Somebody's sick, somebody's this, somebody's that, all the things in life that can create a space that we need something, we finally remember that there's somebody up there. What we're being told here is not to remember the Creator. We have to remember that we are part of that consciousness, of that being, of that unity, or whatever you want to call it, all the time. And in sorrow, and in happiness, and in a space where everything is comfortable. We never should forget that when you look at a beautiful picture, and you say to yourself, wow, isn't that a gorgeous picture? Which is right. But also, what would happen if I didn't have the eyes to see that gorgeous picture? And therefore, I'm thankful that I can see, that I have the ability to enjoy the beauty that's around me, which divinely given to me by my Creator. Never forget those points. And then, the thing that the Parsha is really explaining to us is to become like the Creator. And we speak about it often. We talk about the month of Elul as being Ani L'chadi v'dodi li, I am my beloved is mine, meaning that in this month the gates are a little bit closer, that it's a little bit more open so that we can find our way into the mind of the Creator of the light, as we call it. And that's why we say that the way to get there is via what they call the 13 attributes. Long-suffering, and those of, I'm sure most of you understand and know what the 13 attributes are about. But the question is twofold. First of all, do you know why they call it the 13 attributes? Because that's how many there are, right? 13. The number 13 is daga, care. The number 13 is achad, oneness. But more importantly, the number 13 is ahava, it's love. And when it's saying that particularly in the month of Elul, we should get closer to the 13 attributes, meaning to become more like the Creator because of all the things that we didn't write down, but we know the things that we did this year that were no-nos, the people that we hurt, the people that we weren't nice to, the people that we snubbed our nose at, all the things that we had done that we need to change are part of becoming closer to the oneness of the Creator. But the most important thing about that is when you have two people, when you have a hava, even two people that truly love each other, two people that are close enough, are friends enough, then you have real hava. And 13 and 13 is 26. It's a tetragrammaton. It brings us to the highest level. And there's a beautiful story about a man that was condemned to death by the king. And he says, I'm willing, I'll go. I said, but please, give me 3 days in which to put my affairs in order. And so the king says, how can I do that? You're going to run away and maybe not come back. So his friend standing next to him says, I'll take his place. I will stand in his stead for the 3 days. Allow him to put his affairs in order. And so the king agrees, and the day 3 comes, and there's no sign of the guy. So they turn to his friend, and he says, look, you put yourself in his place, and as he's not here, you are going to receive his judgment. At which point they're taking him, they're about to put a noose around his neck, and from the distance they hear, wait, I'm here. And sure enough, it's the man coming back to receive his punishment. And as he gets up to the man, he says to him, no, you weren't here. You weren't here, it's my turn, not your turn. You weren't here, I have to take it for you. And they start a fight about which one of them will receive the punishment of the king. And at which point the king says, stop. He says, the judgment was to kill one of you for the action which was done. But when I look at you, I realize that to kill one of you would be to kill 2. And that was not my judgment. That's true ahava. And in order to find one friend in an entire lifetime that would be that type of a friend, you have to be with the greatest amount of what we call mazal. Because that type of a love, that type of a friendship, you see in very few places of the world. Shabbat shalom.
All right. Wow. So there we have it. That was Karen Berg. And that was a lecture that was, 10 years ago. Ooh, wow. But very relevant. Yeah? Very relevant. Friends, like I said to you before, these are the things that you will learn when you keep listening to the Kabbalah for Jamaicans segment. Unless you are a student of Kabbalah and you're plugged into the other teachers where you'll hear these types of things, yes? You're not going to hear this anywhere else. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. Those who have an ear to hear, let them hear. A few things before we sign off tonight. I just want to mention, a few of the things that Karen had spoken about. She said, we should be concerned with what's happening in the world. In other words, we should watch the news. There are a lot of people who turn off the news and don't want to listen to the news because them say it's too much negativity. You want to know why I watch the news on a daily basis? One, it's important to stay informed. It's important to stay informed of what's going on around us. Because, again, as Michael mentioned in the previous lecture, the world depends on us. We are the ones. Now, can I impact what's happening over in Gaza today? Yes, by praying and by working on my negativity, because my own negativity contributed to that. What's happening over there? These are the teachings, my friends. You ever hear of the butterfly effect? A butterfly flap its wings in New York and there's a tsunami in Tokyo. We're all connected. And the more we take responsibility, it may not be direct responsibility, but indirect, recognizing that, like, you not pull a trigger for the gun that is killing somebody, or press the bomb, the button for release the bomb, right? But you need to understand that our own negativity has contributed to this, to everything that's happening in the world, all the negativity in the world. So as we work upon ourselves, we're breaking, the hold of negativity on others. If you are going through a personal struggle, realize that you're not just going through that struggle for yourself, but you're going through the struggle for other people as well. And if you are able to conquer it within yourself, then you unlock, you open up the gates for other people to conquer it for themselves, for themselves. Right? That's the wisdom, my friends. And like I said, you're not going to hear this stuff anywhere else. So keep listening, keep learning. Watch the news. Feel the pain of humanity. Feel the pain of the Shekinah that feels the pain of all. And she mentioned about the number 13 and love. And as I mentioned earlier about the Hebrew letters, the power of the Hebrew letters and their numerical values. Words that have the same numerical value are similar. Like ahava, which is love, and unity, same numerical value, 13, and oneness. Okay? That's how special 13 is. So I want to thank you all for listening. And again, the number here is country code +1 516 965 5700. Again, country code +1 516 965 5700. And give a call. Let me know that you want the link to listen to the Shabbat Connection on Saturday. I'm telling you, friends, if you start to align your life to start listening to the Torah on Saturday and listen to as much Zohar as possible, you're going to see miracles in your life. Guaranteed. Alright? And next week, Tuesday, we're going to, like I said, next week, Tuesday is the new moon of Virgo, the month of Elul, which begins the 30 days of repentance in preparation for Rosh Hashanah. You're not going to want to miss the next couple of shows, because we're going to be talking about preparation for Rosh Hashanah and how you can ride that wave, that very special wave of energy, transformative energy, to help to transform your life. And by transforming your life, you're transforming the world. You've been listening to Diaspora Connection featuring Kabbalah for Jamaicans. Once again, my name is Joshua. We're here every Tuesday and Wednesday night, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. in Jamaica. And we're also here on Sunday nights at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Jamaica, to listen to connect to the Zohar channel. Alright? So, have a wonderful evening, and here's Garnet Silk to take us out.
Here I come again, Jaja. Before your presence we singing. Yeah. Lord, watch over our shoulders tonight and help us live our words tomorrow. Let's not forget where we're from, Father, show us the way to go. You said I must love and feed my enemies, and I'm gonna do it. You said I shouldn't hate or grudge, and I won't, not even for a minute. Let only truth come from my lips. Bless our souls, cause without you we can't make it. Lord, watch over our shoulders tonight and help us live our words tomorrow. Let's not forget where we're from, Father, show us the way to go. You're the wind beneath my wings, see me through all little things. You lifted me when I was down, now you have me standing on higher ground. Lord, watch over our shoulders tonight and help us live our